Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai, haere mai, and greetings all. My name is Cheryl Adamson, and I'm the General Manager of the Parnell Business Association. Thanks for listening to another episode of Eco Bites, short and sharp topical conversations in the eco space. 8 to 10 questions, one presenter, released monthly. When focusing on sustainability, we so often focus our attention on very obvious emissions and forget that some of our most important base products, such as cement, are responsible for some really big numbers in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. So we're really fortunate to have clever and forward-thinking entrepreneurs such as Matt Kennedy-Good, who's made it his mission to re-engineer concrete to make it regenerative, resilient, and carbon neutral. So let me now hand over to Josephine Rudkin-Binks, who's a board member of the Parnell Business Association and our sustainability champion, to formally introduce and interview Matt Kennedy-Good, co-founder of Neocrete, who have their labs in Future House, Parnell. Over to you, Joey.
Thanks, Cheryl. So it gives my great pleasure to introduce Matt to you today. So Matt's a sustainability-focused entrepreneur, focusing his time where startups meet sustainability and science. Currently, he's leading global growth for Neocrete, which he co-founded in 2018. Neocrete is re-engineering concrete, the world's building block, to make it regenerative, more durable, and carbon neutral. Their goal is to reduce global carbon emissions by 1% each year from 2033. Matt's background is in business development, government, digital marketing, startups, compliance, and law. Previous roles include Director of business.govt.nz, building startups, founding an online writing company, and working as a commercial lawyer, including organisations Goldman Sachs and Simpson Grierson. So, kia ora, Matt.
Kia ora.
So, tell us a bit more about yourself and Neocrete.
Well, Neocrete is, as you said in your introduction, which was brilliant, by the way, is we're really focused on impact. We want to make a difference in that huge footprint that the world's building block, concrete, is responsible for. And we've developed an activator, we call it a fine powder, that when added to a concrete mix can enable a substitution of cement, which is the problem material for low carbon materials such as volcanic ash, which is abundant here in New Zealand.
Awesome. And as we mentioned, you've had involved in a number of startups and a number of businesses. But so how did Neocrete come about? What was your aha moment?
Well, the starting moment was a chance conversation between myself and Zarina. We're on the beach at Lyell Bay and talking about our backgrounds. I mentioned that I had a involvement in business and supporting businesses, and she talked about how her family had this deep connection with trying to make concrete stronger and more durable. Her dad is the archetypal mad Russian scientist and had been innovating with concrete for 30 years. And we got to talking about whether or not there was a possibility that we could use his innovation and as a leverage, a starting point for reducing the cement and concrete. We started talking with industry and experts in cement and concrete, and we quickly saw that there was a real opportunity in this. And this was looking at the problem in a different way to the way that the rest of startups and industry was looking at it. And that's proven to be really a really useful approach, because what we've seen in the global industry is that there are solutions, but things like carbon capture and storage, but they're quite expensive. They double the price of concrete. And industry really doesn't want to increase price. If you're going to change industry at scale, generally you need to do so by lowering costs.
Awesome. And I guess when you take into the account of potentially having to offset as well, then keeping costs low and offering a low carbon options, or great idea. And I mentioned in your bio that you talk about reducing global emissions by 1% by 2033. I mean, that's a massive, 1% doesn't sound much, but 1% of global emissions is massive. So, so tell us a bit more about how you're going to do that.
Yeah, that's guiding light, really, and it's so useful to have that. And so the mission really came about, we're thinking about, well, we can reduce emissions by between 30 and 50% now with current technology that we've been working on for the last 5 years. And we're on track to get to zero carbon concrete by about 2027 at current rates. But just taking where we're at now, if we scaled globally and found the partners and overcame lots of hurdles that we still have to overcome, it's not completely unreasonable. It's not crazy to say that we could scale to a point where we're reducing, let's say, 20% of global cement emissions. And so what we did was we chose a number, nice round number, 1%. Concrete is responsible for 8% of global carbon emissions. If we got to 12% of the industry market share, which is huge, it's the most used product in the world after water, we could reduce global carbon emissions by 1%. So that's where we came to that number. But the really interesting thing about that mission is how useful it's been for us to inspire investors, employees, partners, and people we talk to. And so it's a really, really key part of our business. It changes the way we think. When we think about growth and scaling, we rule out decisions which will result in just incremental growth. We're really going for huge scale as quickly as possible. And that makes it a really exciting business to work in for us and the team.
Awesome. And how receptive has it been? I know you've been to some international conferences and talking to people overseas. How receptive have they been so far to your product?
It's been a great ride for the last year, especially. Neocrete was chosen from 70 different startups last year by the Global Cement and Concrete Association as having real potential to decarbonize the industry. And so as a result of being chosen under that program, we're now working with industry that represents about 30% of the global concrete poured every year. Giants including Cemex, Heidelberg, and CRH, along with another 5 global giants. It's kind of amazing to be this tiny little startup in a country that pours only 0.02% of global concrete and yet be working with these global giants. And they chose us because we can scale quickly and at low cost and have proven carbon reductions already. And that's not to say that we're necessarily going to work with them in the future or sell concrete to them or sell our activator to them, but it's a great vote of confidence from industry.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. I mean, it really puts New Zealand and Parnell, on the map. So that's great. And I mean, getting people, having a product available and then getting people to specify it into projects and things is another thing. So, and it seems like a no-brainer to be able to choose a low carbon or a zero carbon concrete option. But what do you think will still hold people back from using it?
That's a great question.
If anything, obviously.
Well, yeah, no, it's a really good question, because if you consider, you could say concrete is the foundation of civilization. And look, you want to trust your foundations. You want them to work. And it's not just you want them to stand the test of time, which in Neocrete has special durability testing. It's stronger than normal concrete, more durable, but it's got to fit with current industry practices. The placers have to be able to place it reliably. If your concrete truck gets stuck in traffic, you don't want that concrete sitting in the barrel. And so there's all these different parts of a really well-established supply chain that have to work well. And that's been a big focus for us over the last year, especially, is making sure that the product that we deliver doesn't disrupt the industry. We want to disrupt the carbon, and we want to make a product that lasts longer. but we don't want to make it difficult for industry to use the product, and we want to ensure that it is really reliable and dependable in the same way that the amazing product that concrete as it currently stands is. So what's going to stand in the way of people using it? Well, cost. People love sustainability, but they don't really want to pay for it. So industry incentives and regulations will help there. But the other big thing is proving that we're as easy to use as existing concrete and as reliable. That's going to be hugely important for us as we scale.
You've probably bust some myths there about the product, but I was going to ask, are there any sort of myths that you would like to bust with this opportunity that we're giving you now about the product? With, you know, you often sometimes get naysayers or people are a bit not sure about this new kind of way of doing things.
Yeah, look, that's as with all big industries, there's a bit of greenwash around, and so there's myths around perhaps that you need to pay more, or that for green concrete, or more sustainable concrete, more low carbon concrete. And there's ideas that perhaps it's not as good a product, when in fact, a lot of the time, the more sustainable concrete like Neocrete is in fact stronger. And the other myths are, I think, around are that it's in some way more difficult to use. Look, it can be, but I think when we launch on the market in New Zealand next year with our latest product, we're going to be offering a product that is lower carbon, matches similar alternatives on the market, and is a more durable, long-lasting product that requires less maintenance and should last longer. So we're really hoping that that type of offering is going to be enough to get people to consider other alternatives, which might be in some ways create a little bit of hassle for their suppliers to change who they're buying from, but won't create additional hassle for them in terms of ensuring the product is reliable and does what it needs to.
It sounds like an absolute game changer for the industry, so we're super excited. We mentioned that you've been meeting with sort of global cement and concrete organizations, but is Neocrete, your technology, is that a world first?
It's a unique way of solving this problem for sure. Nobody else is doing what we're doing in the way we're doing it. So there's, as I mentioned, there's lots of other technology to reduce the carbon footprint of concrete. It's a big focus for industry around the world. But Neocrete was chosen by the Global Cement and Concrete Association because we do have a unique solution.
Oh, amazing. And you've mentioned that the product's coming to market, or a new product's coming to market next year, but so tell us about that and what's next for Neocrete.
So for us, we're just in the process of finishing setting up our first plant here in Auckland. It's going to be manufacturing a product made almost entirely out of New Zealand materials, and it's going to primarily, our focus is activating volcanic ash, which is natural, non-toxic, and plentiful all over the North Island, especially around the Waikato. And so our next focus is building confidence in the market. So pilot projects with local partners, and then supplying the local market here in New Zealand. But globally, as I said, New Zealand's only 0.02% of global concrete. And because we've got a mission to reduce global carbon emissions by 1%, we're really overseas focused primarily. And that's a lot of our work is with the global industry at the moment. In fact, the vast majority of it. And so we're just working with our first overseas customer at the moment. We're moving into scale trials in the next couple of weeks. And our goal is to sell our first container in the next month or so. And if we can achieve that, it's been a huge year for us, and we'll be looking to supply more commercial customers around the world from next year, including New Zealand.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's been a crazy run up and a manic month, and good luck to the product launch next month. And just, you've been involved with a lot of startups, but if there was one piece of advice you would give a business, what would that be?
Well, one of the mistakes we made, that Serena, my co-founder, and myself, was we originally started the business and we hired people to run it. We were working just part-time while keeping our current jobs. In hindsight, it would have been better for the business if we'd gone full-time straight away. However, can be a really difficult choice, and it's no one shoe size fits all there. Entrepreneurs will have to make that assessment based on, of course, some will have family and kids to support and that sort of thing. But the sooner you can commit wholeheartedly and go all in, the better. And the more likely you are to scale rapidly and reach your milestones. And the second piece of advice that I think is really important is don't be afraid to ask other people for help. Kiwis are often a bit reluctant to ask for lots of different reasons. But asking, there's so much help out there available. You just have to be willing to ask for it.
Awesome. Two great pieces of advice. So, well, thank you so much. It's been so insightful, and we're super proud to have Neocrete as a Parnell business. We're really excited about the growth and the scale that you're going to do and reducing global emissions. Yeah, we just absolutely applaud what you're doing. So keep it up, and looking forward to keeping tabs on your success.
Well, thank you very much. It's lovely to meet you and lovely to be here.
And you, Kia ora.